Now with Congresswoman Barbara Lee of California, who is joining us. Congresswoman, it's nice to see you this evening. I know that we've been watching the travails of Washington, D.C. go on this evening, and what do you make of what we just witnessed with the Senator's announcement, Senator Reid's announcement that the 1 a.m. vote is going to be pushed by 12 hours to 1 p.m. tomorrow?
Well, obviously, as Senator Reid said, the Republicans have chosen to go into their next play act in this theater and in this drama, and that is to filibuster, which is outrageous on such an important issue as raising the debt ceiling. I have to say also that, you know, when you hear that this deal is being put forth now, perhaps in the image of Senator McConnell, we have to think about what that deal may look like. And of course, we must remember that Senator McConnell, I think it was back in October of last year, said that his first priority was to make sure that this was a one-term presidency for President Obama. Secondly, we have not heard much about jobs. When you talk about any deal that is being put together, we know in terms of deficit reduction, the way you reduce the deficit is by investment in job creation. That discussion is not even on the table, and that is a shame and disgrace given the huge unemployment rates that that our people have and that we're feeling now in terms of the pain and suffering of the American people. Thirdly, people are being asked to pay for this deficit in many of these deals that are being proposed who did not cause this deficit. We are looking at senior citizens, we're looking at them talking about Medicare, Social Security, Medicaid, triggers that don't involve any revenue increases. I don't hear them talking much anymore about a balanced approach. They're not talking about, as Senator Sanders mentioned, the millionaires and billionaires who have gotten off the hook in terms of their taxes, two wars, the Pentagon budget. There are ways, oil company subsidies, there are ways we can raise revenue, but we don't hear much about that. We hear more about cuts. What type of cuts are going to take place? And that is a shame and disgrace because we have 43 million people living in poverty and it's growing. So I think we have to be very careful with whatever deal comes forward that we do not allow poverty rates to increase by forcing those who are middle income to fall into the ranks of the poor. And finally, I have to say that I think that the 14th Amendment option is what the president should do at this point. We cannot go into default.
I wanted to ask you about that because do you think that, I mean, that's never been done before. A lot of people didn't even know that it existed really when it came down to doing something like this, but we've never really witnessed anything like this in Washington, D.C., where our elected officials like yourself are describing this government that's being hijacked. So do you think that the 14th Amendment really is the viable option that should be discussed?
Absolutely. This is a national emergency. The Republicans want to take us to the brink. They have taken us to the brink of economic collapse. When we're in a state of emergency as we are now, I think it's absolutely essential that the president exercise his constitutional authority and should do that. I think that in itself would make a heck of a lot of sense. It would keep us from going into a catastrophic collapse, and it would also ensure that the next day we can get on with the business of trying to figure out how to create jobs for the American people, how to begin to look at a reasonable and balanced approach to reduce our deficit, and we can move forward to make sure that this American dream does not continue to be a nightmare for so many people. It's about time we say enough is enough. We should have never bought into the Tea Party's plan and negotiations and gameplay in terms of allowing deficit reduction to be attached to any debt ceiling bill. We should have had a clean debt ceiling bill. That's the way it has been done over and over again under Democratic and Republican presidents. We should have done it this time. Why in the world would we try to put the American people in this terrible predicament? And that's what the Tea Party has done. And so I think we need to, the clock is ticking. I think the president should pull the trigger, exercise his constitutional prerogative, do the right thing, move on to the next day and begin to really come up with a jobs program, investment in our infrastructure, try to figure out how we can allow for people to move forward and live the American dream. As I said earlier, people are suffering, they're desperate, they're on edge. People don't know what is taking place, what's going to happen. They don't know, and it's really a shame and disgrace that our military men, we're in the middle of 3 wars. And for them to be questioning and wondering whether or not they're going to be paid, that's very unpatriotic. That is wrong. It's morally repugnant, and I think we need to stop these shenanigans. And the Republicans, we saw what happened today. You know, these are political ploys, both in the House and in the Senate. The Tea Party ran on this agenda. They ran on dismantling government. That's what they want to do. They want to dismantle government.
They were elected there, though.
But we see
they were elected. They were put in by Americans just like you and me.
They were put in because people were very frustrated for a variety of reasons. But I can tell you one thing, their constituents are unemployed, their constituents are on Medicare, their constituents are on Medicaid, their constituents are on Social Security. I don't believe their constituents believed that they would come here to destroy their lives. I don't accept that, Thomas. That is just not true. And so we have to, and the next elections, of course, will show us if, in fact, people really, you know, bought into that. Their agenda, and I think they've shown us for who they are.
Congresswoman Barbara Lee, it's nice to see you tonight. Thanks for your time.
Glad to be with you.
We're going to be right back with the very latest from the White House as well as